So I've had this idea of developing an app to help individuals access support services within their area, mainly food relief, especially during COVID. I found that a lot of people aren't aware of the services or where to go to get help. There's still a lot of stigma about it. So hopefully this sort of normalizes and make people feel more comfortable and knowing where to turn to. A lot of people I've spoken to said they weren't aware of the services in their area or didn't know that they even existed or what they'd done. So yeah, so I thought maybe a nice, quick, able, simple app, foolproof app that you can just type where you are and wham, there they are. So
I think that's a great idea. And do you have a background in this, or tell me about what you
yeah.
bring to this, or what kind of research or other resources that you have already?
Yep. So I work in individual support. So I am a community service worker. I am doing my bachelor's in community service. So this is the type of area that I'm quite passionate about. It is. During COVID, just being a good little Samaritan as I am, I started making food hampers for just people in my community. It was all basically done on Facebook through Marketplace. People just offered to donate to me directly. I made hampers up. People just inboxed me on Messenger and I delivered the food to them. And this is where I found where there was a huge barrier with people being able to get services. And generally, the people that are asking for help now have never asked for help before. They're mainly people that have worked their whole entire lives and now due to COVID, they're unemployed. So it's just trying to break that barrier and that stigma of it all. And I did go talk to local agencies to see what they could do, how they could help. Wasn't fantastic because they didn't know what to do about it. They didn't know how to get people to know about them or what they do. So that's pretty much what led me here.
That sounds great. There sounds like a real need there. So
yeah. Well, there's nothing like it in Australia at all. There's nothing to do with support. Agencies don't have apps. There's nothing whatsoever. So, yeah.
And do you have a list or access to this repository of these locations and resources?
So I do for my area where I live. The government's websites do post these. So that you're able to get a hold of them pretty easily. It's just a fact of, collecting the information.
So are they not all together in one place?
No. So pretty much if you were to type in Google for, say, food relief in your area, you'll come up with places all over the place. You'll come up with places that aren't even in Australia. And so then you are constantly searching and then you're feeling even more crappy about yourself and then you just give up pretty much.
Yeah. Well, we don't want that.
No, not at all.
All right, well, let's try doing a little bit of wireframing and designing and brainstorming together. I will share my screen so that you can see this wireframe. Do you see this blank wireframe screen here? Okay, great. So the first thing I often like to do is just write down a few notes about who's going to be using it and just kind of summarize some of the information that you wrote down already. So maybe I'll do this in a little sticky note. So I'll say, what is, let's do who's going to use it, what their goals are, and then we'll maybe what steps or actions to get there. So what would you say someone's goal is. They are looking for a location where there is food relief services near them.
Yes.
Okay. And these people are, so you said this is for, the benefit is helping people with COVID because they haven't used these services before, but is it,
just everyday individuals.
Okay, so it could be, it doesn't have to be limited to people with COVID.
No, just everyday individuals.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and let's list out some of the challenges. I would imagine that a big challenge would be, well, knowing that this even exists, or knowing that these services exist, and then knowing that an app for finding them also exists. And then you said maybe there is a little bit of maybe stigma for people who don't like the idea of getting, say, a handout, or there's kind of a psychological barrier to not wanting to take free food, especially if they've been working their whole life, and there's a certain amount of maybe pride or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what happens when somebody, so assume somebody has found the app or the website or whatever we're going to be designing. What do you think they're going to be, what's their their workflow for doing that? They're going to land on this site, and what information are they going to provide? What information are they going to receive?
I was thinking just probably the area. So just typing in their location. Mm-hmm. Sort of like, Google Map, how you just type in your location and then you have pop-ups of restaurants or whatever you're searching for, something similar, something just really easy to use, and everyone knows how to use a Google Map. So
see sites near you. And what do these typically look like on the ground? Are they going to be at some kind of building, or are they going to sometimes just be in front of somebody's house? What are they going to need to interact somehow, or can they just go there?
Yeah. So I was thinking then I could have, so you type in your location and then a list will come with the organizations in your area, and you can click on those, and then it can have their contact information, call now, or maybe a link to their website.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this person then needs to make the step to contact them?
Definitely.
Okay.
We can't do all the hard work.
Right. Just having a list there, I think, would be pretty useful. Yeah. Are there, and maybe one last question before we start a little bit more, are there other examples of something like this that you've seen, even if it's not for this particular type of service, but is there something that kind of visually or from an interaction point of view you think might be similar?
No, I haven't seen anything myself. I did hop onto apps to see if I could find something just around these lines. Nothing came up. The only thing that came close is actually in the US, where you guys have pay it forward meals, or restaurants have where you can hop on and say, oh, yeah, register, pretty much. I think that's all what I've seen. You should know more about this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about some examples that I've seen, but there are certainly plenty of examples of websites or something where you put in your location and it gives you a list of things that meet that criteria near you.
Yeah,
Um,
I only know Google Maps.
mhm. Well, let's take a look at Google Maps. And actually, I was looking for, let's try this. Let's look for COVID testing site, because I think this is something they've kind of added specifically. So if I put in, it defaults to my area, and then it kind of shows me a list of, either pharmacies or clinics that have this near, that do this near me. I mean, I could just as easily look for, uh, places that sell coffee, cafes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a site where that's even simpler, where it's really just a list. I was, oh yes, I think I was looking for post office locations the other day, and if I want to find a post office near me, I can put in my city and state or my postal code, or I can use the Find My Location feature that allows a browser. Okay, it doesn't want me to do that. I don't have permission. So I'm going to put in my postal code instead, and then say I want a post office within 20 miles of me, and it will show me all of the locations on one side and then a map on the other side, as well as maybe some information about their hours. Or I can click on that and it will expand and show me some more information. I can close that and I can go back to the list. So maybe
Yep.
something along these lines where you have a list and maybe you have a map. Let's see, are there going to be any options that you're going to search for? Like, is this, when is this open? Are there any other kind of things that you might be looking for aside from just, the distance from where you are?
Yeah. Um, no, I don't think so. Because otherwise you could end up putting a whole lot in,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's when it gets, yeah, really daunting. And then
Mm-hmm.
people are like, oh wow, because sometimes when, say, if you were looking for an organization for help, they offer so much. And then if you read all of these things, you're instantly putting yourself into this criteria of you have to fit into these boxes for these
Mm-hmm.
resources, or I'm this person to have help, if that
Right,
sort of
right.
makes sense.
Yeah, we've already, just by making it this far, they've already invested a lot of time and
Yeah,
energy, and we want to just make it
yeah,
as easy as possible.
that's exactly it.
Would it even be, one thing we could even do to make it simpler is maybe just have a list of the locations that already exist and they can just click on it? How large a radius do you think that people are going to be searching?
So generally people would travel up to 20 Ks.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And is this going to be
Most of
all
the
over
time.
Australia, do you think, or is
Yeah,
this?
and that could be Australia wide. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can still have, yeah, reach out, but probably a 20K radius, because people travel if they have to take public transport or so
Mm-hmm.
forth.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
needs to be, yeah, doable.
And do you have access to a list of the locations in all the different areas in Australia?
No, but I'm guessing the government websites would. It could be just a matter of reaching out to probably some of the food organisations, food banks in Australia that do produce to the smaller organisations, having a chat with them to get that information. So I guess it would be doable. It's just branching out.
Got it. Okay. The only reason I ask is that because if you were, say, focused on one specific city to start, you could just
Mm-hmm.
have a list of all of the different neighborhoods or regions or whatever, and you
Yeah.
could just click on it without even having to put in your address. But if we're
Yeah.
assuming that you'll be able to build it out to a wide enough area that it will reach lots of cities, then let's try just doing something like similar to what we saw. So what do you think somebody will want to enter for their address? What is should they put in their, I'm not familiar with Australia. Do you use like a
Yeah.
postal code? Is that kind of
So yeah, a suburb. Um,
okay?
yep.
Um, is there another thing that they could put in that would kind of
A
narrow it down?
postcode,
Okay.
and that's probably about it.
Okay. Okay, so they are going to put this in. That's going to be kind of the big thing there. I like the idea of building in the ability to, for if, you know, if it's a website or an app, to locate you automatically, because a lot of these have these built in,
Yeah.
if you don't have those privacy restrictions turned on. So this could be
Yeah.
something. I'll put a little tooltip here, and then I'll say, what did I say? Locate me automatically. And then we'll have a button that says search. And I'm not adding any of the other text yet because we can kind of worry about that later. I think that there's probably going to, like you said, people don't necessarily know why they're here. They might be a little nervous about it. So I'm going to leave some space for some kind of text to be filled in later to describes what it is that they're doing. There might even be a little bit of text that describes, you know, what is done, what happens with their information, that it's not stored or something like that. We want to maybe go the extra mile to make sure people feel secure and safe with this. And then from a marketing point of view, we may want to play up some of the benefits or some of the features or the reasons why they might do it. There's kind of a separate step of, you know, do you want to show photographs of people or things like that to make it feel a little more friendly and familiar and not like something that's just trying to, you know, steal your address or something like that. So does something like this feel, this is basically all they need to put in is some kind of something to locate them to start, right? Okay. I am going to just continue on this. So maybe we might even have the same page be to search and the results. You know, I think on that post office page we are looking at it, at least on this first page, it kind of keeps the well, yeah, I guess it keeps the information at the top the same, even though it's kind of styled the same way. So we're going to do something like search results. We'll put this here, and then this will be maybe the name of the organization is the first thing that they're going to see. Do you think?
Yep.
Name. And then let's see, should they, oh, that's right. Maybe we want a radius. Maybe we can, instead of asking them for a radius, we can just default to a certain radius, 10 or 20 kilometers, like you said. And then once they get their results, they can filter the location. Let's see, we'll just put this 20 kilometers. And then they can change that if they want. And then this is going to be the organization name. And then the address, I suppose. The address and contact information. And then I know that you mentioned Google Maps, and the one we just looked at had a map on it. Do you like the idea of having them being able to see it on a map as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's just try something like what we just saw, where you have them kind of side by side. I've seen this in other apps too. You know, if you're searching for a hotel or a department store, or something like that. So you're going to have your contact information. You know, maybe it's going to be outlined to show you that you can click on the whole thing. Put this in the back. And so these, and then do some of these little map marker things to kind of give you an idea that that's what's going on here. And that might kind of be all you need, right? Is there something that I'm missing?
Looks great.
Okay. What else was I going to think about? We could think about what you might want to have on the page that's going to make it feel that's going to make it feel inviting and make people want to, feel that they can trust it. Or you can spend some time thinking about how you might describe it, or maybe some of the scenarios that we want to think about more specifically. This is kind of designed to accommodate, I guess, a website, but it could also be a phone. If it's a phone, maybe the map view is, say, maybe they're not side by side, but maybe above and below or something like that. Trying to think what else we might want to consider, or what would be helpful for you to take the next step, whatever that is. Do you have any thoughts about how you're going to build it, or what information that you might need, or that the viewers might need?
No, this is pretty much as far as I've gotten. I don't know what steps to take next from here either. So hopefully you can tell me. Because I don't have the slightest idea. But this looks pretty great. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty much direct, and it's user friendly. So it's pretty much the basics and just ticks the boxes.
And I think the idea would be something that you could use to, you could probably find some programmer who would do this as a volunteer project or something like that. But if you've never worked with them before, they want to have a clear idea of what it is you want to build. And so, that's where these wireframes could be helpful, for them to be able to visualize it. And then in their head, they're going through and looking at, okay, I need to build a database with this information, and I need to call this map API or whatever to put my, put the pins on the map and that sort of thing. And so I'm trying to think of all of the considerations that you might want to have. But if you have an address for every organization, and if you're able to get the contact information, I know, maybe let's design maybe one step further about what happens when you select one of these, and you want to then kind of get more information about it. If that's even needed, we could just have it be where these kind of boxes are big enough so that somebody is able just to see copy the address and the phone number. Maybe that's all you need, because maybe you don't need more information than that. But for fun, let's try to see what happens if we just do one extra screen here. And let's say, for example, someone clicks on this one, and we'll mark this one as selected maybe. And maybe we'll do another little, there's a variety of ways of doing this, but let's see what it looks like if we have a little rectangle that goes on top of it or something. And maybe we'll use a similar color here. And maybe we'll have, this will just be more details about this place and, the information that you need to know, etc. And, when you're talking about this with whoever might be building it, you could say that this is just one idea.
Yeah.
And so they can maybe just do this to close it if they want to go back to the original results. But something where it stays on the same screen is kind of nice, maybe.
Yeah. That's a good idea because then you can add in extra information about them as well. So it's not just putting it all into one little box. Like it's, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe even if you're talking to a programmer about it, you could have multiple stages. Maybe the first one, there is no map. And then the second one, you build in that first list. And then the third one, you kind of add additional information. You can kind of do it incrementally, step by step.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds good. Looks good. Well done.